At my brother's promotion dinner, I handed him a folder, prepaid consultant, office lease, and $5,000 in startup capital. His fiancée smirked, then whispered, "He's really trying to be important again." I took it back, said, "Let me try less." 10 minutes later, the lease was canceled. Deposit gone. I should have known the night was going to turn sour the second I saw the seating chart. My name is Jason. I'm 38, live just outside San Diego, and until a few months ago, I still believed that quiet generosity could eventually earn respect. That night changed everything. It was my younger brother Nathan's promotion party. He'd just been made VP at some financial tech firm, and his fiancée, Lila, made sure the whole family knew how elite this celebration had to be. We were seated in a private room at a swanky bistro in La Jolla, where the drinks cost more than my monthly phone bill. When I arrived, I handed the valet the keys to my beat-up Camry and watched him side-eye the car like it might leak oil on the cobblestone. Inside, Nathan was already surrounded by clinking glasses and handshakes. I approached, gave him a quick hug, and handed him a black leather folder. It was thick, elegant, the kind you only give when it means something. "What's this?" he asked, smiling. "Open it later," I said. "It's everything you need to finally start that side project you always talked about. Consultant's been paid for the first 3 months. Office lease too. And a $5,000 seed grant. All yours." Nathan's smile faltered for a split second, just long enough for me to catch it. But then Lila leaned in, all glossed lips and curled sarcasm. "Oh wow," she said loud enough for the whole table to hear. "Look at Big Brother, desperate to be relevant again." You could hear the forks clink down. Conversation stopped. Even the waiter froze mid-pour. I stood there holding nothing now, the folder still in Nathan's hands, though he didn't say a word. No defense, no pushback, just silence. I reached over, took the folder back. "I see," I said, sliding it into my coat. "Let me try less." And I walked out. The cool air outside hit me like a wave. I didn't look back, didn't rush. I got in my car, shut the door, and stared straight ahead for a second. My hands were steady. My pulse wasn't racing, just calm, detached. On the drive home, my phone buzzed once. A voicemail, not from Nathan, but from Lila. Apparently, the office lease company had called her. The rental was under my name, but I'd listed her as an emergency contact. They wanted to confirm cancellation. And yes, the deposit was non-refundable. I didn't listen to the whole message, just deleted it. That night, I sat on my back porch, cracked open a beer, and stared at the orange glow of the neighborhood street lamp. I thought about how many years I'd been the quiet backer, the financial safety net, the steady brother, and how it had earned me nothing but polite indifference. People always assume walking away is dramatic, but sometimes it's just overdue, long overdue. This wasn't an outburst. It was a withdrawal. Symbolic, yes, but also real. That folder was the last thing I ever planned to give Nathan, not because he didn't deserve help, but because I finally realized I deserved peace more. I figured someone would call the next day. Maybe Nathan, maybe even my mom. But no one did. No texts, no emails. No, "Are you okay?" Not even a half-hearted, "Let's talk." It was like I'd been erased overnight. It didn't take a genius to figure it out. They were circling the wagons, pretending nothing happened, waiting for me to come crawling back. That was their style. That's always been their style. 3 days passed. Silence. I started noticing how quiet my phone was. No notifications, no pings, no sudden group texts that I'd usually ignore anyway. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel tethered to anything. I woke up early, made real breakfasts, got deep into a marketing campaign I'd been putting off. I answered emails before lunch, took walks, got sleep. The silence was almost luxurious, until it cracked. Day 3, mid-afternoon. My phone lit up. "Mom." I stared at the screen for a while, then picked up. "Jason," she said like she was reading from a script. "I've been worried." "Have you?" There was a pause, then a sigh, the kind that said you're making this harder than it needs to be. I heard there was some tension at the dinner. Tension. That was her word for public humiliation now. Lila made a joke, she added, like that would fix everything. She didn't mean it seriously. "You think that was a joke?" "Well, I'm sure it wasn't meant to offend you." I laughed, dry and low. "That's not the problem, Mom. The problem is she said it, and no one flinched. Not even you." She went quiet. "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm just done playing the role." "What role?" I let the silence hang. She knew what I meant. The provider, the fixer, the invisible donor at the back of every family photo. "You've always been dramatic," she finally muttered. "You read too much into everything." That one hit like a slap. Not because it was new, but because it was old. I'd heard it since I was a kid. Any time I said I felt left out, or that things didn't feel fair. "Jason," she added, softening her voice, family has ups and downs. You don't just walk away when it gets uncomfortable. I'm not uncomfortable, I said. I'm just tired. Another long pause. I could practically hear her calculating, switching tones, reaching for something to reel me back in. Well, she said, colder now. If you're not going to apologize, I don't know what you expect me to do. Nothing, I said. That's the point. And I hung up. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel sad. I felt settled. Because for the first time, I wasn't chasing an apology that was never coming. I wasn't trying to explain why what happened mattered. I was just done. By the weekend, the whispers started. At first, it was subtle. A cousin I'd barely talked to liked one of my old Instagram photos and left a random comment. Hope you're doing okay. Family's hard. That kind of vague nonsense people post when they want to act like they know something without saying it outright. Then I got a message from Aunt Diane. I hadn't heard from her in months. Jason, I'm sorry to hear about everything with Nathan. He loves you. Try not to let jealousy ruin that. Jealousy? That's the story they were telling. I didn't blow up at dinner because I was disrespected. No. I walked out because I was jealous of my younger brother's promotion. Because I couldn't handle not being the center of attention. I checked Facebook. Lila had posted a quote graphic, white cursive on a gray background. Some people can't be happy for you because they're too busy hating where they are. The caption read, growth attracts envy. We keep growing. 50 comments, all variations of you go girl, and so proud of you both. And one from my mom, proud of how you handled everything with grace. Grace. They thought ignoring me was grace. I didn't comment. I didn't respond. I didn't try to clear things up. Let them have their little narrative. Instead, I got to work. I made a list. Every account, every shared payment, every little thread that still tied me to them financially. It was longer than I expected. First, the grocery subscription I'd been quietly covering for Mom and Dad since Dad's back injury canceled. Then, the family cell phone plan. Nathan was still on it. So was Mom. So was Lila. Believe it or not. Gone. They'd all get notices within 24 hours. Time to pay for your own unlimited data. The water bill for their vacation cabin upstate off my card. The Visa account tied to the shared emergency fund? I drained it and closed it out. No more emergencies with my name on the invoice. I worked through the list like I was closing out a company. Quiet, methodical, final. That night, I poured myself a whiskey, sat on the couch, and let my phone buzz. It was my father this time. First a call, then a voicemail. I waited 10 minutes before listening. His voice was tight, clipped with anger. You're making a fool of yourself, he said. You don't just cut your family off because you're in a mood. That's not how we do things. That's betrayal, Jason. You don't betray your blood. That word hit different. Betrayal, not hurt, not misunderstood, not fed up. Traitor. That was the story they were telling now. I wasn't standing up for myself. I was defecting. Like I'd switched sides in some war I didn't even know I was fighting. I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling for a long time. It's funny how people define betrayal. In our family, it meant pulling away, drawing lines, saying no, but enabling, tolerating disrespect, getting mocked at your own expense. That was just love. That was family. Not anymore. They had their story. I had my boundaries. And for the first time in years, I wasn't paying for both. The email came at 2:13 a.m. No subject line, no signature. Just a blurry photo attached and a single line of text. Your silence is louder than their noise. The photo was of Nathan, standing in a parking lot under the harsh light of a street lamp, mid-argument with someone, probably Lila, though the image cut off most of her face. His hand was raised, not in a threatening way, but in that wild, desperate way people get when they're losing control. I stared at it for a long time, trying to place where it had been taken. It wasn't anywhere I recognized. I didn't reply, didn't forward it. I just closed the laptop and sat there in the dark with a weird knot tightening in my chest. Not fear, not concern, just the strange realization that someone in that circle, was paying attention, maybe even rooting for me. It was the first time I felt truly seen since that night at the bistro. The next afternoon, I stopped at the grocery store to grab coffee and cleaning supplies. I wasn't thinking about any of it until I rounded the corner near the frozen foods and nearly bumped into a cart. Sorry, I muttered, but then I looked up. It was Ava, Lila's younger sister, maybe 21. Quiet. The one who always hung back during family gatherings, scrolling on her phone, never joining the drama. She looked me over, then raised an eyebrow. You okay? I blinked. I'm fine. No. I mean, like, are you really okay? I hesitated. I think so. She glanced around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned in just a little. They're unraveling, she said. Without your money, I mean. I didn't say anything, just looked at her. I'm not spying or anything, she added quickly. But Lila complains to my mom nonstop. She says Nathan's freaking out because the rent on their new place hit harder than expected. Your parents canceled their weekend in Napa. Nathan's credit card got declined at brunch last week. She gave me a crooked smile. It's kind of poetic. I wasn't sure what to say. Ava had never been this direct with me. Never spoken more than 2 words, actually. They thought you'd cave, she said. They always do. I nodded. Not this time. She pushed her card forward, but before turning down the next aisle, she looked over her shoulder. By the way, I was there when Lila said that crap at dinner. Her tone turned serious. It wasn't a joke. She meant it, and everyone knew it. I watched her walk away. For a second, I just stood there in the freezer aisle, feeling like the floor under me had shifted. Someone saw. Someone understood. And suddenly, my silence didn't feel empty. It felt respected. Not loud. Not vengeful. Just powerful. It started with a text from Nathan. Can we talk? It's important. Then came the screenshots. 3 messages in a row. Each one showing a different banking app, all with balances teetering near zero. We can't make rent this month, he finally wrote. Please, just help us this once. I didn't respond. 2 hours later, my building's call box rang. I almost didn't answer, but then I saw the names on the screen. Mom and Dad. I buzzed them up. They stood outside my door like missionaries, hands folded, faces set to their most sorrowful expressions. I didn't invite them in. Just opened the door and leaned against the frame. We just want to talk, my mom said, clutching her purse like it might save her. You're already here, I said flatly. Talk. Dad stepped forward. Jason, this has gone far enough. Your brother is in real trouble. Funny, I said. I don't remember him worrying about trouble when he let his fiancée insult me in front of the entire family. My mom winced. It was a misunderstanding. Stop, I said. Don't do the misunderstanding dance. Not today. They exchanged a look. Then my mom dropped the real reason they came. We told some people you were having a difficult time, mentally, that you needed space. I laughed once, sharp and bitter. So you told them I was unstable. That's how you explained it. Her face tightened, but she didn't deny it. I stepped back and finally let them in, but I didn't offer them a seat. So let me get this straight, I said. You didn't defend me when I was publicly mocked. You didn't call after I walked out. You stood by while they turned me into some bitter villain. And now that your golden boy is broke, suddenly I'm well enough to be useful again. My dad dropped into a chair like the weight of the conversation had just landed on him for the first time. We were trying to protect everyone's image, he muttered. I stared at him. Even if it meant sacrificing mine, neither of them answered. I walked to my kitchen, poured a glass of water, and took my time drinking it. When I turned back around, I was calm. This isn't about punishment, I said. It's about truth. You can't just erase your family, Jason, Mom said, her voice cracking now. We're still your parents. He's still your brother. I leaned against the counter, watching them. If there's any family left under the betrayal, I said, let me know. But I'm not going to keep pretending. We made mistakes, my dad said quietly. But we've always done what we thought was right. No, I corrected. You did what was easy. You let me carry the load for years because I never made noise. Because I never asked for anything. Mom started crying. Real tears this time, maybe. Or maybe she just realized the performance wasn't working. We don't want to lose you, she said. You already did, I said gently. The day you decided keeping Lila happy was more important than respecting me. I walked to the door and held it open. They stood slowly, my mom dabbing her eyes with a tissue that seemed to appear from nowhere. I hope you find peace, I said, but you're not going to find it here. They walked out without another word. When the door clicked shut, I locked it and leaned against the frame. Not in anger, not in sadness, just in relief. Because that was the last time I would let any of them inside. I didn't expect to see him. It was a Tuesday, mid-morning. I was at my office, just a rented space above a print shop I barely used, reviewing some proposals when I heard the knock. Slow, hesitant. I opened the door. Nathan stood there, dark circles under his eyes, hair messy like he hadn't been sleeping. He looked smaller somehow. Not physically, just reduced. She left, he said before I could speak. Lila, she's gone. He held up his phone, screen glowing with a text message. It was long, emotional, final. You don't know how to stand on your own. You let everyone do everything for you. This was never what I signed up for. She moved out yesterday, Nathan said. Took the car, the one she made me lease in her name. I said nothing, just stepped aside so he could come in, even though I didn't want him in the space. He slumped into the chair across from my desk like his body couldn't hold itself upright anymore. I don't know what to do, he muttered. Rent's due. My credit's shot. The joint account's empty. He stared at me, waiting, not for advice, for rescue. Again, she said I depended on you too much, he continued. That you were some kind of weird security blanket. He laughed, short and dry. And now you're gone. So I guess she figured I'm useless. I leaned back, arms crossed, waiting for the inevitable pitch. Nathan looked up at me. You win. That was the moment I realized he hadn't come here to apologize. He came to shift the blame. You win, he said again, like this was a competition. You pulled out, and everything fell apart. That's what you wanted, right? I didn't flinch. I didn't win, I said quietly. I just stopped losing. He blinked, like the words didn't compute. I didn't want things to fall apart, I said. I just wanted out of the cycle where I'm supposed to sacrifice while everyone else mocks me. I never mocked you, he said defensively. I tilted my head. You didn't stop her either. He opened his mouth, then closed it. We both knew the truth. He had laughed. Maybe not out loud, but he let it happen. Do you know what it's like, I said slowly, to put together a gift that could have changed your life, and then watch the woman you're marrying spit on it while you sit there? He looked down. I'm not here to save you, I said. Not anymore. Nathan stood, wiping his palms on his jeans. This is the last time I'll ask, he muttered. I just thought you'd want to help. I didn't answer. He left without slamming the door, without even looking back. When he was gone, I sat down at my desk, opened my calendar, and stared at the empty square that was once filled with meetings I scheduled around other people's emergencies. It was blank, clean, and for the first time in my life, that felt like freedom. It arrived on a Thursday, tucked inside my mailbox between a pizza flyer and a credit card offer. No return address, no handwriting, just a plain white envelope with my name typed on the front. Inside was a cashier's check. Amount, $8,200. No note, no explanation. I stared at it for a long time. The number felt strange at first, not rounded like a gift, not small enough to be symbolic. Then I did the math. Marketing consultant deposit, $3,000. Office lease, first month plus deposit, $2,200. Startup grant I'd included, $5,000. Minus the non-refundable loss. Add in a guess at taxes or paperwork fees. $8,200. Exactly. It was the amount of the gift I had taken back. I leaned against the counter, the envelope still open in my hand. It wasn't from Nathan. No way he had that kind of money now. It definitely wasn't from my parents. There was only one person who would have known the exact breakdown. One person who was close enough to Lila to hear the details and quiet enough to keep secrets. Ava. I thought about the grocery store aisle, her blunt words, the way she had looked me in the eye and said, "They thought you'd cave. They always do." And how I hadn't. I didn't try to confirm it. Didn't message her. Didn't ask questions. The point wasn't the money. The point was that someone saw it. Saw me, not just as the backup plan, or the bitter brother, or the wallet. Someone understood that the folder I pulled back wasn't just cash and logistics. It was years of showing up and being told it wasn't enough. I didn't cash the check. I slid it back into the envelope, sealed it, and tucked it into the drawer beside my birth certificate and passport. Not for the value, for the meaning. Because for once, something came back to me. Not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but out of acknowledgement. Quiet, anonymous, and real. It was proof I hadn't imagined it all. That I wasn't invisible. That pulling away hadn't made me bitter. It had made me seen. I wasn't invited to the final dinner. It was at Lila's parents' house, a formal send-off now that the engagement was officially dead. Ava told me about it in passing, like she wasn't sure if I'd want to know. She said her dad stood up in front of everyone and, for the first time ever, said something real. He told them what you did was fair, she said. Said he would have done the same if someone humiliated his kid like that. I didn't say much in response, just nodded. But that stuck with me, because I'd never expected a defense to come from outside my bloodline. That was the thing about starting over. The people who saw the real you weren't always the ones who shared your last name. As for my own parents, they went quiet again. Ava told me they'd rented out their old condo and moved into a smaller place closer to the edge of town. My mom picked up a few part-time shifts at a florist. Dad started consulting again, something about tax prep for retirees. The vacation trips were gone, the shopping sprees dried up. For the first time in years, they weren't floating on my current, and they were surviving. Not comfortably, but independently. Funny how fast people remember how to swim when you stop dragging them across the water. No more, Jason. Can you help with the power bill? No more, just until Nathan gets back on his feet. Just silence. But it wasn't the cold kind anymore. It was the earned kind. The kind that comes after you set a boundary and actually mean it. Meanwhile, I was beginning to live again. It started small. I rejoined a gym. Started cooking real food. Took a week off. My first real time off in years. Drove up the coast without telling anyone. Just me and a rented cabin and a dog-eared novel I never had time to finish. Then I met Sophie. We crossed paths at a charity fundraiser, of all places, something Ava dragged me to because she had an extra ticket and a bottle of wine with my name on it. Sophie was smart, funny in that dry, sideways kind of way, and didn't once ask what I did for a living. When I told her the story, the real version, not the sanitized version, she listened all the way through. When I finished, she just said, "You didn't lose anything." I raised an eyebrow. Didn't feel like winning. She shook her head. "You didn't lose. You just stopped feeding what was already dying." That line stuck with me, because she was right. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped carrying them across it. A few weeks later, I opened my desk drawer and saw the envelope again. The one with the $8,200 check. I didn't touch it. I just smiled, shut the drawer, and walked away. Some things weren't meant to be cashed. Some things were just meant to remind you that letting go doesn't mean disappearing. Sometimes, it just means finally being free.